Academic fraud involving political figures is not something new. In fact, it occurs even in countries with fully functioning democracies. Usually, leaders caught in academic scandals quickly resign after they're caught. This also applies to anyone who holds high office because, no matter how powerful a leader is, public discourse and academic integrity always overrules them. In 2012, Hungarian President Paul Schmidt stepped down after he was stripped of his doctorate over plagiarism. ThesisGate has been on a quest for the truth for 2 years now. Throughout this saga, we've seen dishonesty and favoritism in Taiwan's government bodies. Academic integrity, rather a lack thereof, has become a catalyst for the Taiwanese government's corruption. The media, the supposed fourth estate that's meant to keep governments honest, has failed. Taiwan's many scholars also refuse to speak up for truth, proving that Taiwan has not shed its authoritarian ways. The fight to find out the truth behind Tsai Ing-wen's degree has never been more significant. ThesisGate investigators abroad are trekking full steam ahead in preparation for an upcoming UK tribunal court case. Let's bring the focus back to Taiwan, more specifically, Tsai Ing-wen's lawsuit against Dr. Dennis Pang. The Taipei District Prosecutor's Office seems to be doing everything in its power to cover for Tsai Ing-wen. Most recently, the TDPO had a pretrial hearing scheduled for July 28th. The prosecutor assigned to the case, Huang Wei, was replaced by prosecutor Liu Cheng-wu. Liu Cheng-wu has somewhat of a reputation. Early on in his career, he was involved in prosecution reform. He's appeared in the media as a commentator and has been known to go rogue from time to time. Liu likes to challenge authority and has launched numerous tirades on political talk shows. He's sometimes a troublesome figure for the top brass. In 2007, he threatened to recall President陈水扁. Those in charge are in no hurry to promote him, so he's been floating around in the same places. Throughout this lawsuit, Dr. Dennis Pang has made many requests to the courts, most of which have gone unanswered. It's nothing outrageous either. He has requested files and asked that court proceedings be live-streamed to the public. As discussed before, Dr. Pang is the only person who has privacy considerations when it comes to live-streaming court activity. However, the courts flat out do not respond to his request. Just 1 day before the pretrial hearing, Dr. Pang wasn't even in Taiwan when he published a scathing statement admonishing a decision to promote Huang Wei despite his gross mishandling of ThesisGate matters. If anything, Huang Wei's promotion shows that Taiwan's administrative bodies have fallen victim to political manipulation. Dr. Pang's statement outlined 6 main points, in which he highlights how Tsai Ing-wen has infringed upon basic human rights. 1. Dr. Pang was charged with violating the Civil Servants Elections and Recall Act, but relevant case files were never given to the plaintiff, defense, or judge. How was any party expected to present or hear an argument without complete information? Furthermore, how did Huang Wei come to the conclusion that Dr. Pang actively tried to hinder a candidate's election? 2. Case files regarding Dr. Pang's false accusation allegations against Tsai Ing-wen have not been distributed to the plaintiff, defense, or judge. How is any party expected to present or hear an argument without complete information? 3. Huang Wei misconducted himself. He either intentionally or unintentionally removed 2 pieces of evidence that contradict the existence of Tsai Ing-wen's thesis in Dr. Pang's lawsuit against Tsai. The presiding judge did not receive the withheld 20 pieces of evidence, which clearly hampers their ability to make an informed decision. Four, there are over 16 English language documents that are all pertinent to ThesisGate that have not been translated into Chinese. The exclusion of such vital information in the country's primary language compromises any judgments regarding ThesisGate. 5. Since June 2019, Dr. Peng has received numerous death threats. He has been monitored and there have been several attempts to hack into his private data. National security organizations are at the center of these nefarious schemes. Hearings for Dr. Peng's cases have been scheduled in the middle of a COVID-19 outbreak. For Dr. Peng to return from abroad would require him to go through quarantine, yet he is summoned to court at a time when procedures are incomplete. Is it fair to ask him to risk his health and well-being to defend himself under such incomplete circumstances? 6. Dr. Peng and his lawyers have repeatedly requested documents, information, and evidence from the courts. Yet, Dr. Peng has not received any response aside from evidence being dismissed. Dr. Peng's statement ended by saying he would not show up to the hearing as an act of protest against the injustices he has had to endure. The singling out of Dr. Peng has exposed exactly how the government wields the judicial system as a weapon. Prosecutor Huang Wei blatantly manipulates evidence, shifting anything that doesn't favor Tsai Ing-wen into non-indictments so that a judge will never see it. Huang Wei buries and muddles his trickery with bureaucracy and other inconsequential documents. Huang thought we wouldn't notice, but our lawyer Li Zhenhua caught on quickly, prompting lawyer Jim Chang to add Huang to our list of witnesses. It's our intention to have Huang explain his actions in court. Huang Wei's promotion is worth keeping in the history books because his sloppy work certainly is not a good reflection of how he garnered a higher post. Despite Dr. Peng's open declaration that he would not attend the July 28th hearing, brave men and women still showed up to see what shenanigans the court would get up to. Upon their arrival, Dr. Peng's supporters were told at the last minute that the hearing would be moved to a different courtroom. When they got there, they were met by a line of bailiffs and a security checkpoint. Just a reminder, this was not a hearing for some violent crime. This was for defamation. Prosecutor Liu Cheng-wu suggested that the court reschedule the hearing for October 20th in the interest of protecting Dr. Peng's constitutional rights. The judge agreed and the hearing was over in less than 5 minutes. Interestingly, all 3 of Tsai Ing-wen's lawyers showed up to the hearing, including Lian Yuanlong, the lawyer representing her in Dr. Peng's case, alleging that Tsai's thesis does not exist. Lian did not seem happy that Liu advocated pushing back the hearing. Lian also said that the most important thing for the prosecutors now was to explain how Huang Wei was able to receive photocopies from the University of London registrar, something that only Tsai Ing-wen should have been able to do. That way, Lian could avoid Tsai getting called upon as a witness. Think about this for a moment. Does this make any sense? Tsai Ing-wen absolutely should be called upon as a witness. She is the one suing Dr. Peng, yet she doesn't provide testimony or evidence? Who else besides her would know more about her own education? Why is it then that Tsai's legal team wants to avoid her getting called upon as a witness? Doesn't this go against all logic? Additionally, how did prosecutor Huang Wei come to possess photocopies of Tsai Ing-wen's personal correspondence letters with Michael Elliott? Who else but Tsai would have such documents? If Lien provided those copies, then who has the originals? Judge Zuo Yuxuan, the first judge who presided over Dr. Peng's case against Xavier Chang, allowed Dr. Peng to request testimony directly from the University of London. But the Ministry of Foreign Affairs quickly struck that down, saying Taiwan does not have a mutual legal assistance agreement with the UK. However, when Xavier Chang asked to request files from LSE so he could compare what they had with what the presidential office had, the foreign ministry forwarded the orders to Taiwan's representative office in the UK. According to the UK representative office, the University of London did not respond. However, it received an email from LSE legal representative Kevin Haynes, who said the school had 278 pages of files on Tsai. Those files also identified Michael John Elliott and Leonard H. Lee as Tsai Ing-wen's examiners, which, as we all know, could not have been the case. Both LSE External Affairs and its administrative offices told us separately in 2019 and 2021 that the school does not have any records on Tsai Ing-wen's viva. Furthermore, LSE would not have been the issuing body of Tsai Ing-wen's PhD in 1984. Who knows where Kevin Haynes got his 278 pages of so-called record? The easiest and most effective way to find out the truth is to follow through with Judge Zuo Yuxuan's order for the University of London's testimony. But national security organizations can't allow that, so they blocked it by having the foreign ministry cite mutual legal assistance as a thinly veiled excuse. But mutual legal assistance wasn't an issue when Xavier Chang asked LSE for files for purposes of comparison. Judge Zuo was pressured into taking parental leave by her superiors because of her steadfast judgment. Judge Zuo once asked Xavier Chang why she should believe his photocopies. It was a blow to Lien Yuanlong, so he called upon national security organizations to clean up. One request was a direct appeal for testimony from the University of London. The other wanted files from LSE for comparison. Without a doubt, getting testimony from the University of London would be easier, simpler, and the fastest way to end the ThesisGate argument. Why then did authorities go with the more complicated comparison route, which would inevitably waste more time and resources? Furthermore, none of LSE's provided documents had any signatures. What good would comparing two signatureless documents be in the eyes of the law? This entire process is just one big charade to make it seem like photocopies are as good as original documents. This is also why it was imperative to remove Judge Zuo from the case. This is not the first time these chain of events have happened in a ThesisGate context. The exact same thing happened in Huang Wei's public prosecution against Dr. Dennis Peng. Taiwan's representative office in the UK requested files from LSE for comparison purposes, which Kevin Haynes then responded to. Haynes then provided files via email. Two independent cases with the same exact trajectory. Both were put on the same improbable and peculiar path. it's hard to believe that these court proceedings aren't scripted. National security organizations are thorough. During the July 28th hearing, prosecutor Liu Cheng-wu said he wanted to postpone the hearing in the interest of constitutional rights. It seemed like he was advocating for the right things, but the truth is, his central argument, like Huang Wei, boils down to, why don't you believe Tsai Ing-wen? 2 days after the hearing, we received a letter from Prosecutor Liu in which he addressed 3 of Dr. Dennis Pang's 6 concerns. First, Prosecutor Liu agreed to translate the documents from English to Chinese. He did convey his impatience and say that because of the sheer volume of files requiring translation, it will take a long time. This is a step in the right direction. However, in response to Dr. Pang's request to live stream court proceedings, Liu says the prosecutor finds live streaming unnecessary. Dr. Pang provided 4 reasons in his argument for live streaming: transparency, public interest, prevention, and to avoid political interference. However, Liu saw those 4 reasons and pretty much said, "I just don't want to." What kind of justice system fears transparency? What kind of judiciary inhibits openness, fairness, and honesty? Finally, Liu spent 9 pages explaining why Dr. Pang was singled out and indicted, and why he received both an indictment and non-indictment letter. Liu's explanation contains 8 major reasons. However, each reason was flawed and betrayed guilt. Liu's major argument is summarized as follows. Liu Cheng-wu cited a 20-year-old theory which said indirect evidence can be used to deduce the truth. However, to us, this meant that the prosecution did not have any direct evidence supporting their case. Liu is fully aware that he only has photocopies to work with. None of it is legally binding. That's why he needs to employ deduction as his primary argument. The evidence Huang Wei gathered for Liu is meaningless. It's a bunch of letters that help prove Tsai Ing-wen had a student visa, but when it comes to supporting the existence of her viva or the identity of her external examiners, the prosecution has nothing. They can't even find a convincing copy of unfair trade practices and safeguard action. Before we talk about direct and indirect evidence, we should request that Liu produce original documents, something that's a little more legally binding. Burden of proof is the prosecutor's responsibility. However, in this case, prosecutors don't dare to pry into the possibility that Tsai is a fraud. Instead, they try to shift the burden of proof. The prosecutors should be the ones validating Tsai's degree. Instead, they wait for the defense to prove their evidence wrong. When given 2 examiners who couldn't possibly have evaluated Tsai, the prosecution should have been the ones to realize the problems with the new information and find out the truth. It shouldn't have waited for the defense to unveil that finding. Are prosecutors so powerless that they can't even get information from the University of London? Liu constantly referenced Taiwan's Judicial Interpretation 509, which defined freedom of speech, malicious intent, and fair criticism. The thing is, a president's education and degree is of public interest. It's something that every citizen has the right to discuss and evaluate. To say Dr. Pang has malicious intent by questioning Tsai's degree is like saying the prosecutors had malicious intent when they accused scholars of questioning Tsai's degree for the sake of their livelihoods. In the end, Prosecutor Liu did not explain why Professors He Defen and Huan Xilin were spared from indictment while Dr. Pang was not. It did not explain why it thought Dr. Pang's media presence and influence merited charging him and not the other two, even though they share the sentiments expressed on his shows. Prosecutor Liu flat out denied the possibility that Tsai's thesis does not exist. He says that a PhD viva and external examiners are minor details of no consequence. Liu not only doesn't understand academia, he's also clearly staying loyal to those in power. He chooses to believe the photocopies and evidence that Lin Yuanlong provides. His letter says that investigators have not provided sufficient evidence to prove that the University of London did not properly grant Tsai a legitimate PhD. But we must point out to Prosecutor Liu that the University of London has remained oddly tight-lipped throughout this debacle. The school is also in administrative court over the matter in the UK. What makes the school so trustworthy? The University of London so far has only given us three facts that we have long disproved. Liu can't distinguish between LSE and the University of London. Who is he to say that doubtful scholars are wrong? Any one of our viewers who has followed ThesisGate is more qualified to speak on the matter than Liu. If anything, Liu's first statement has us eagerly awaiting prosecution reform. ThesisGate judicial proceedings are getting increasingly outrageous. Tsai and her people are getting bolder and bolder in their misconduct. Today, as ThesisGate unfolds, we're watching Tsai test just how far she can bend the courts to her will. However, the truth is stubborn. The truth is everlasting. Tsai Ing-wen and her conspirators can't hope to change the fact that she did not receive a PhD in 1984. ThesisGate investigators abroad never had high hopes for court outcomes in Taiwan. They're banking on the UK tribunal courts to make the right decisions. Overseas investigators have already acquired evidence proving that the diploma Tsai Ing-wen got in 2015 is a complete fake. Today, there is discord and division in the North American Taiwanese Professors Association. Members are openly calling out former association head Li Zongzi for his endorsement of Tsai Ing-wen's diploma and questioning how he got his hands on the image of the degree which he published on July 10, 2019. The University of London stays quiet among the chaos. It doesn't dare speak of October 16, 1983, the date it claims Tsai Ing-wen's viva took place. Our actions in Taiwan's courts are not directed at Huang Wei or Liu Chengwu, nor are they an effort to use public opinion to sway the court's decisions. We want to expose the systematic and structural corruption of the justice system. We want to show how Taiwan's leaders have used the courts as a political tool. Without fair and just courts, what kind of awful life are people in this country being set up for? ThesisGate's stories are getting turned into books. A movie production is underway. We will share what information we have because the painful process of overcoming corruption must be soldered into our collective memory so that we do not make the same mistakes. Let us move forward and write history together.